few years ago, I was so frustrated and embarrassed by my art that I questioned if I should even keep doing it. But after tweaking my approach, I'm so glad I didn't quit, because now my work has been sold in big stores like Target. And more importantly, when I sit down to draw, I feel confident I'm going to make something that I like. So in this video, I'm going to show you why making ugly art can actually be a sign that you are doing things right, how to deal with that fear of making something bad, and how ugly art can actually help you. But first, is there a way that we could avoid making ugly art at all? Can we just skip that crappy feeling, right? So I want you to think about your favorite artist, somebody that you admire. Maybe it's somebody that you even know personally. Imagine that they are working hard in their studio, making lots of drawings, and the last 10 pieces that they've created in the privacy of their own studio, how many do you think that they are going to be proud enough to post on social media? And how many do you think that they'll dislike so much that they'll never show anyone at all? I don't know a single professional artist that loves everything that they make. So why should you hold yourself to the same high standard as the best artists in the world? Of course, when you are learning a new skill, you have to practice, and some of those pieces are going to come out worse than what you thought they would. But the truth is that even when you do build that skill, you will still want to get better, and you will continue to hold yourself to a higher and higher standard. And so that standard of what is ugly, that's always going to be rising. And the truth is that if you are making ugly art, is probably a sign that you are actually doing a few things right. See, most beginners fall into what's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological phenomenon where people with little experience or knowledge in a skill tend to overestimate their abilities because they don't yet know what they don't know. And as someone learns more, they become better at recognizing their own mistakes, which often makes them feel less confident, even though their actual skill is improving. It's kind of like singing karaoke and thinking you totally nailed it, unless you hear a recording back. So as you get better at drawing, you start to notice details that you never saw before. Suddenly, your work begins to look worse to you, not because you've gotten worse, but because you've gotten better at seeing what's missing. So if you're frustrated by how your art looks, congratulations. First of all, you're a real artist now. You hate something that you made. And it also means that your taste is growing and that your skills are probably about to catch up as well. And look, we all know it takes practice to get good at something, but it's still so frustrating when we suck. How do you stay motivated to stay at it when all you want to do is just burn the last piece and never show it to anybody? So video games usually begin with a tutorial level. Instead of dumping you into the middle of all the chaos of gameplay, they introduce you one step at a time to how to play the game. First you learn to farm, then you learn to sell your crops. With your art, if you focus on one or two things that you want to get better at per drawing, this will really help a lot. And that art that you hate, that is going to be your roadmap to figuring out which of those things you should focus on. Instead of a vague I just don't like it, ask yourself specifically, do I like the colors or not? Do I like the subject matter? Do I like the shapes or the way that everything's composed? Decide on one or two things that you want to focus on in your next drawing, and make note also of what you like about your piece so that you can do that again in your drawing. This is really just as important as noting what you don't like, because first of all, you want to do the same good stuff again in your next piece, but also it's important to build that positive feedback. But how the heck do you actually improve on something that you hated in your last piece? So one really powerful way is to look at art that you admired. If you tried to draw a cat and you hated the way it turned out, look at other cat art that you do like and see if there is something specific that you can integrate into your next cat piece. Sometimes this can be tricky to figure out on your own, so it can help to have an expert set of eyes on your work to help give you feedback. And if you're interested in working more with me on that, you can learn more about my program via the link in the description of the video. Now, personally, I find the hardest part is usually when you're in the middle of making a piece. So how do you avoid a graveyard of half-finished pieces in your iPad or sketchbook? It might help to know that every creative project goes through a roller coaster of emotions. You start with an idea that you're super excited about, but quickly you may realize this is going to be harder to make than you thought. The deeper you get, the more you start to feel like this piece sucks, or maybe even I suck. But if you find a way to push through, you'll start feeling like maybe you've learned something. This piece wasn't as bad as you thought. And eventually you're going to come out with a piece that might not have been what you initially imagined, but you're really proud of. So how do you make it through those low points of the creation process? It, of course, helps to know that, hey, this is just part of the process. I just need to, push past these feelings and move on. But there's a couple other things that might help as well. If you've been trying to get those colors right for the last hour and you just can't seem to make any progress, take a break. Go work on something else. Go take a walk around the block. Just let your mind rest on that problem. It's kind of insane how coming back to a project with fresh eyes has made it 1,000 times easier for me to solve a sticking point. This is why I usually work on a handful of pieces at a time. If I find myself getting stuck or frustrated on one piece, I go work on a different one. The same goes for judging your work. Our initial reactions are often so wrong. Can you remember a friend in high school that would secretly hide their sketchbook, claiming everything in it was absolute trash? Yet you thought everything was so cool. Our level of perfection that we hold ourselves to doesn't always match what other people think is beautiful. I hated this piece when I first created it. All I saw were all the flaws and mistakes that I'd made. Yet looking back, I don't remember all the mistakes now that it's been some time since I created it, and I think it looks kind of nice. Coming back with fresh eyes to a piece, you may realize that the problem that you were stuck trying to fix might not be a problem at all and might be something that you can just let go of. So naturally, the best way to let go of judging yourself while making art is to let go of your attachment to the outcome. And for most people, including myself, that's a lot easier said than done. It's easy to say, oh, just don't worry about how it's going to turn out. Yeah, okay. But actually, there is a way that really does help you turn off that part of your brain. And one of those ways is by getting into a flow state. The flow state is when you're just so absorbed in what you're doing that you don't even notice the outside world. You're just in the moment. But how do you get into the flow state? So the trick to getting into a flow state is finding the balance of doing something that's not so easy that it's boring and not so hard that it's frustrating. It needs to be just barely above your current capabilities so that you become absorbed by working on the drawing itself. This can be really difficult to do on your own, which is why it's sometimes helpful to get help from an expert. It's why I've structured the exercises for my students so that the challenge is slowly and steadily leveled up with each new day. And you can check out the link below if that sounds like it would be helpful for you. Let's be real, nobody likes showing off the art that they're not proud of. It's so tempting to hide your ugly art in a drawer and then just delete it and pretend it never happened. But sharing your mistakes is actually one of the most useful things that you can do, not just for you, but for everyone else who is learning alongside with you. How many times have you watched a YouTube video titled 5 mistakes to avoid, or what I wish I knew before I started drawing? We all want to avoid making the same mistakes, right? If nobody ever shared their mess ups, we'd all be stumbling along in the dark, making the same mistakes over and over again. I remember posting a piece I didn't really like, but decided to break down what went wrong and what I would do differently next time. That post actually did really well. The comments blew up with people saying, I struggle with this too, and thanks for being real about the process. So next time that you make something that flops, share what you learned. You'll help others and you will probably feel less alone in the process. But maybe for you, the real struggle is finding time for your art. In this video, I'll share strategies to help you if you struggle with limited time, art block, perfectionism, or just plain fear of failure. I'm not going to tell you to wake up earlier, delete social media, or just try harder, because that never worked for me. Instead, I'm going to let you know what really made a difference for me.